Hi, boys and girls. I'm going to read The 101 Dalmatians. I really like this story because it shows that friends will always be there for one another, and I hope you enjoy. In a townhouse in London, there lived two dogs named Pongo and Perdita, who loved each other very much. Their human pets, Roger and Anita, and a cheerful housekeeper named Nanny lived with them too. They were all very happy together. Everyone got excited when they learned Perdita was expecting puppies. 15 puppies, Roger exclaimed on the stormy October night they were born. Pongo beamed. He was filled with pride and love. Outside, lightning flashed and thunder roared. Boom! Suddenly, the front door swung open, revealing a tall, thin woman wrapped in an enormous fur coat. She was Cruella de Vil, an old classmate of Anita's. She had heard that puppies were on the way and had come to buy them. She stroked her fur coat, grinning evilly. "I'll take them all," she cried. "The whole litter." Pongo barked. He didn't like Cruella at all. He decided his puppies would never belong to her. "I'm afraid we can't give them up," Anita told her. Cruella glared at Roger and Anita and pulled out her checkbook and pen. "Don't be ridiculous. I'll pay you twice what they're worth." She shook the pen so hard that ink flew all over Roger and Pongo. Roger was annoyed. With Pongo by his side, he declared, "We're not selling the puppies." Cruella stormed out the door. "I'll get even, just wait. You'll be sorry, you fools." Weeks passed, and the puppies grew strong and healthy. Each night, Patch, Lucky, Rolly, and the others snuggled while Pongo and Perdita took their pets for a walk. One night, while Pongo, Perdita, Roger, and Anita were out, two evil men named Jasper and Horace went to the Dalmatians' home. They pushed past Nanny and stole the puppies. "Police! Help!" cried Nanny when she realized what had happened, but it was no use. The police couldn't find the puppies. When Roger and Anita returned, they were horrified. They didn't know what to do. "It's all up to us," Pongo told Perdita. Roger and Anita were only human after all. The Dalmatians decided to use the twilight bark. One dog would howl a message, then the next dog would pass it along, and so on. It was the quickest way for dogs to send news across the country. The next night, Pongo and Perdita led Roger and Anita to the top of a windy hill in the park. Pongo barked and barked, sending news about the stolen puppies. There was no answer. "I'm afraid it's too cold," said Perdita, shivering. "There's no one out tonight." Then in the distance, a faint bark sounded. Danny, the Great Dane, had heard the news. 15 Dalmatian puppies stolen. It was an all-dog alert. Soon, the news spread to dogs all over the city, to a Scottish Terrier in the street, to an Afghan in a window, to a poodle in a fancy car. From pet shops to homes, from rooftops to alleyways, the dogs of London passed the message along. They would do whatever they could to help find the missing pups. The barking reached the edge of London, then beyond. On a grassy knoll past a long, wide creek, an old dog named Towser listened. Then he barked the message to a nearby farm. Inside the barn, a sheepdog named the Colonel perked up his ears. 15 spotted puddles stolen," he told his friend, a cat named Sergeant Tibbs. 2 woofs, 1 yip, and a woof." "It sounds like puppies, not puddles," the cat said. Then Tibbs remembered he'd heard barking at the old DeVille place 2 nights ago. The missing puppies had to be there. The Colonel and Tibbs snuck over to the abandoned castle and spotted the pups. 1, 2. Tibbs began to count. The 15 stolen puppies were there, along with 84 others. Cruella de Vil had gotten Jasper and Horace to kidnap the Dalmatian puppies so she could use their fur to make coats. The Colonel barked the news that he'd found the missing puppies to Towser, who sent it to Danny, who howled to Pongo and Perdita. "The puppies have been located somewhere north of here," the Great Dane told them. "I'll go along with you as far as Camden Road." Together, They traveled to the city's edge. The Great Dane pointed the way. Contact old Towser. He'll direct you to the Colonel, and the Colonel will take you to your puppies at the DeVille place. DeVille! Pongo and Perdita exclaimed. They knew they had to get to their puppies quickly. Cruella was not to be trusted. Pongo and Perdita plodded through the snow. After a while, they met Towser, then headed toward the Colonel. Meanwhile, inside the DeVille place, Sergeant Tibbs was helping the puppies escape. They hurried through a hole in the wall and down some steps. The pups hid under the stairs, but soon Horace and Jasper discovered them. As the evil men crept towards the puppies, Pongo and Perdita crashed through the window. The two dogs bared their teeth and leaped onto Cruella's thugs. The men fell to the floor. Sergeant Tibbs led the puppies back to the Colonel's barn, while Pongo and Perdita fought Jasper and Horace. Soon, the puppies were reunited with their parents. Pongo nuzzled them. "Is everybody here?" he asked. "Now there's 99 of us!" cried Patch. Pongo and Perdita decided to take all 99 puppies back to London to keep them safe from Cruella. But they'd have to move quickly to stay ahead of her. "We'd better run for it," said Pongo. "How can we ever repay you?" Perdita asked Sergeant Tibbs and the Colonel. "All in the line of duty," the Colonel replied. The Dalmatians scampered away just as the thugs arrived at the barn. Their journey was difficult. The puppies kept slipping on the ice. It was very cold and London was so far away. "I'm tired and I'm hungry and my tail is frozen," Lucky whimpered. He sat down, unable to go any further. Pongo lifted his son by the scruff of his neck, but he and Perdita couldn't carry all of the pups. How would they make it? Just then a collie ran up to the Dalmatians. "Pongo," he said, "we have shelter for you." The dogs from the Twilight Bark had come up with a plan. The collie led the Dalmatians to a dairy farm, where friendly cows provided milk, and the puppies rested in the soft hay. The collie even brought them some table scraps to eat. "It might hold you until Dinsford," he said. "There's a Labrador there." Perdita yawned. All the animals had been so helpful. "I don't know what we'd have done if—" She trailed off, already asleep. The next morning, Cruella joined the search for the puppies. By the time the Dalmatians reached Dinsford, she and Horace and Jasper weren't far behind. Pongo and Perdita led the puppies to a blacksmith shop, where a Labrador was waiting. "The van down the street? It's going to London," the Labrador said. Pongo and Perdita were delighted. That meant they would be able to ride the rest of the way home. Just then, Cruella's car screeched to a stop next to the van. Pongo and Perdita didn't know how they'd be able to get the puppies to the truck without Cruella noticing them. Until Patch and Lucky rolled past, covered in soot from the fireplace. Pongo gazed at the pups. Then he jumped into the soot, turning himself brown from head to tail. "Look, I'm a Labrador!" One by one, the puppies dove into the ashes. Soon they were completely covered. They trotted outside and got into the truck, right under Cruella's nose. She was looking for Dalmatians, not Labradors. But just as Pongo rounded up the last group of puppies, some snow fell on one of them. The soot came off, revealing white fur. Cruella could tell the puppy was a Dalmatian. "After them!" she shouted. The thugs leaped forward, but the Labrador raced up, growling. The men stopped in their tracks, leaving Pongo enough time to grab the last puppy before the truck left for London. Cruella raced after the moving van, trying to run it off the road. Horace and Jasper sped toward it too, but the driver turned just in time. Crash! Cruella's car collided with the thug's truck. They careened out of control, rolling over the side of the hill. "You idiots! You fools!" Cruella screamed as the Dalmatians' truck drove on to London. Before long, Pongo and Perdita brought the puppies to their townhouse. Roger and Anita were delighted to see them, and Nanny helped dust them off. All 101 Dalmatians were safe at home with their pets, and it was all thanks to the friends they'd met along the way. The end. I just love how the dogs call the humans their pets in this story. But the best part is that all these dogs got together and came up with a plan just to help their friends. Boys and girls, do you have a best friend? I'd love to know all about them. Bye-bye.